Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov on December 29th made a sensational claim that Ukraine attempted to attack President Vladimir Putin's residence in the Novgorod region. Lavrov claimed that on December 28th and 29th, Ukraine launched 91 long-range drones at the residence, all of which were reportedly destroyed by Russian air defenses. He described the attack as state terrorism and warned that Moscow had already selected targets for retaliatory strikes. It remains unclear whether President Putin was at the residence at the time of the alleged drone attacks.
On the night of December 28th to 29th, 2025, the Kyiv regime carried out a terrorist attack using 91 strike unmanned aerial vehicles. Long-range drones targeted the state residence of the President of the Russian Federation in the Novgorod region. All unmanned aerial vehicles were destroyed by the air defense systems of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. There have been no reports of casualties or damage from UAV debris. We would like to draw attention to the fact that this action was carried out during intensive negotiations between Russia and the United States on resolving the Ukrainian conflict. Such reckless actions will not go unanswered. The targets and timing for retaliatory strikes by the Russian armed forces have been determined. At the same time, we do not intend to withdraw from the negotiation process with the United States. However, given the complete and utter transformation of the criminal Kyiv regime, which has now fully adopted a policy of state-sponsored terrorism, Russia's negotiating position will, therefore, be thoroughly reconsidered and re-evaluated.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenský dismissed the claims as false, accusing Russia of preparing a pretext to strike government buildings in Kyiv. Putin has emphasized that Russia must continue its offensive operations to gain full control of Ukraine's Donbas region and the city of Zaporizhzhia. General Valery Gerasimov, chief of Russia's general staff, stated that in 2025, Russian forces had captured over 6,400 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory, including more than 330 settlements.
Square kilometers of territory and 32 settlements, which is the highest monthly advance recorded throughout the entire outgoing year. In total, this year, we have brought 6,640 square kilometers of territory and 334 settlements under our control. The enemy is not undertaking any active offensive actions. Their main forces are focused on strengthening their defenses and trying to slow down the pace of our advance by conducting counterattacks in certain areas and through the massive use
of advanced unmanned aerial vehicles, commonly known as drones.
The units of the West Group continue to rout enemy formations east of Kupiansk on the left bank of the Oskol River. The territory controlled by the encircled AFU group on the left bank has been reduced by more than half.
Attempts by the enemy to interfere with the situation developing in Kupiansk itself, of course, must also be addressed. They must be decisively suppressed. I know that you are taking the necessary and appropriate actions for this. We all understand perfectly well that the liberation of Siversk and effective operations in Kostiantynivka allow the troops to create conditions for further offensive development and the capture of the entire Slovyansk-Drushkivka-Kramatorsk area. All of these are agglomerations, and taking control of the entire enemy defensive line, as well as cooperating with the troops in the west and center, will allow for the complete liberation of the Donbas territory. Currently,
the combined group continues to conduct offensive operations in the Zaporizhzhia region. The forward units are about 15 kilometers away from the southern outskirts of the city of Zaporizhzhia. That concludes my report.
How far? 15 kilometers?
Yes.
About 15 kilometers to the outskirts. I had the pleasure. It was clarified once again. Of course, in the near future, it is necessary to continue the offensive together with the Vostok group to liberate Zaporizhzhia. The Ukrainian armed forces units are retreating.
The attack comes after talks between Zelensky and U.S. President Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago in Florida on December 28th.
Did Russia agree, or did Putin agree to a ceasefire to allow a referendum to take
Not a
place?
ceasefire, and that's one of the points that we're working on right now. No, not a ceasefire. He feels that, look, they're fighting and to stop, and then if they have to start again, which is a possibility, he doesn't want to be in that position. I understand that position. The president feels strongly about that or something, but I think we're finding ways that we can get around that. But I understand President Putin from that standpoint. You have to understand the other side. And, I'm on the side of peace. I'm on the side of stopping the war. So, but I think that's a problem that's going to get solved,
Would people who live outside of Ukrainians who fled during the war be allowed to participate in the referendum?
What do you mean, people where live?
The people that left.
refugees
So
who
the
fled
people,
to Poland and
you
Germany.
know, if we speak about the people who are abroad, who are not on the territory of Ukraine, you mean that in Poland, in Germany, we have millions of people. Yeah, they have a referendum in the same of elections. In the same way how people come and vote, they have rights for this. And of course they have to come. That's why if we will come to referendum, yes, if we will come to such decision, people need infrastructure for this, and it's not simple, and that's why we spoke about it. It can't be in one day, very quickly. It's difficult because we need infrastructure. When you have millions of people, you have to build it in Europe, mostly in Europe for today.
President Trump, I know you sound an optimistic note here, but what happens in a few weeks if things sputter? What are you prepared to do?
They keep fighting, and they keep dying. No good. But if things don't happen, they keep fighting, and they keep dying. And we don't want that to happen. He doesn't want it to happen. President Putin doesn't want it to happen either.
We discussed all the aspects of the peace framework, which includes, and we have great achievements, 20-point peace plan, 90% agreed, and U.S.-Ukraine security guarantees, 100% agreed. U.S.-Europe-Ukraine security guarantees, almost agreed. Military dimension, 100% agreed. Prosperity plan being finalized, and we also discussed the sequencing of the following actions. And we agree that security guarantees is a key milestone in achieving lasting peace, and our teams will continue working on all aspects. We also had a joint productive call with European leaders, like President Trump said already, and a lot of leaders, including NATO and EU. And we agreed that our teams will meet in upcoming weeks to finalize all discussed matters, and we agreed with President Trump that he will host us, and maybe in Washington, European leaders and Ukrainian delegation, yes, in January. And Ukraine is ready for peace. And once again, would like to thank President Trump for a warm welcome and substantial discussion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. President.